Hey, Days of Our Lives fans. Well, this is a shocker and a disappointment. Brandon Barash was fired and Stefan DiMera exits on Monday, seemingly for good from the Peacock soap opera. And given his recent remarks, it looks like Brandon Barash is not open to coming back unless the soap takes extraordinary steps to prove they can be trusted. And that's a big question mark, right? He confirmed in a recent interview that Stefan will be exiting the canvas next week. That is what's happening. So he did confirm that he was in the middle of a contract and it was the writer's decision to let him go. He had just finished some emotional scenes with Cherie Jimenez, who of course plays Gabby. That was after the big explosion that crazy Connie set off. And Stefan had showed up with flowers to the hospital to see Gabby. It was very emotional, like, are we going to stop this divorce process? And Brandon said he finished the scenes. He felt really good about the work he had done. And then he was called up to his boss's office and was let go. The Stefan actor said, and that was that. He said he knew exactly what was happening as soon as he was called up to her office. And he's talking about Janet Drucker, one of the EPs. He said, I crossed the threshold and she just looks at me and you feel those things when it happens. She said she didn't like it and it's not her doing and it's not a reflection on my talent or work ethic. She said it's where they decided to take the character. Now, this is me, Belinda, talking, not Brandon. If you know anything about soaps, you know that an actor having a contract is no protection from firing. Happens all the time on soaps. It sets out, certain things like how many episodes they're guaranteed, where they are in the credits, dressing rooms, other things, but it is not a shield from firing. So Brandon said hearing that they were firing him was a gut punch and it hurt his ego. At the same time, he said he was excited about what was ahead, what's on the other side of this. And Barash said he walked out equal parts excited, but also shocked and wanting to see what's around the corner. And he said this was the universe telling him this was not where he was supposed to be at Days. So Brandon Barash last filmed as Stefan the first week of March 2024. And he said the biggest blessing is that he got to spend most of his son's first year with him and said it has been the most incredible experience. And he said he left General Hospital before the birth of his daughter and was able to spend those formative years with her. And he said, that was my choosing. But this firing from Days, he said, was not my choosing. But he said, I've gotten to spend almost my son's first year with him when I'm not touring with my band. And he says, you don't get that time back. So Brandon said he was grateful to be present at home, to help his wife, to do homework with his daughter, take his son to swim lessons, and he calls it a beautiful memory. If you don't know, Brandon Barash shares daughter Harper Rose with Kirsten Storms, who plays Maxie over on GH, his first wife, and now he's got 1-year-old Joaquin with his wife, Isa Barash. Brandon said he is a father first, and it's his most important role. And again, all this happened 7 months ago, back in March, but he couldn't talk about it till now because the exit happens on the next Days of Our Lives episode, Monday, October 28th. And obviously, it's hard to leave in terms of storyline between Gabby and Stefan and also EJ and Stefan. Brandon said he really liked how everything was going between the other two characters and Stefan. He said it was very angsty and he thought it was going somewhere else. So it was just a real shock when they abruptly fired him. He said he and Cherie had found a nice rhythm and he thought Gabby and Stefan were going to let this all be bygones, both of them cheating, and move on. And Brandon said Cherie and Dan, he's talking about Fia Regal, who plays EJ, were not happy either about him being let go. He said Dan was still in the building after it happened, and Brandon went down to his dressing room to talk to him. And he said when he told him Dan looked like somebody died, he just couldn't believe it. And he said they fired him on a Friday before a hiatus week, which is how Days usually does it, apparently. And I mean, let's be real, most jobs usually do their firings on Friday, not just soaps. If you've ever had to fire somebody or have been fired Fridays are pretty typical. And he said that he sent Cherie a text over the weekend and she was in shock and not happy. And Brandon said he didn't tape too much after the firing, that it went very fast and then he was just done. So if you plan to attend Day of Days on November 2nd, he'll be there alongside his day players, bandmates performing. I'm actually going to be there. If you're going to be there, look out for me. I'll have a press pass on. If you didn't know it, Brandon Barash plays in the day players band alongside his castmates, Carson Boatman, who plays Johnny, Eric Martzoff, who plays Brady, and Wally Kurth, who plays Justin Kiriakis. As to whether Brandon Barash would ever come back to Days of Our Lives, he said, I don't know. And he said, this is the second time this has happened to me at Days of Our Lives. And he said it would have to be very, very right, the contract right, the story right, and he'd have to be able to trust them, talking about Days of Our Lives. And Brandon said he's lost that. He said, I've lost that ability to trust that team, quite frankly. There's a lot of upheavals over there. If you think about the last couple of years and all the firings and lawsuits still pending, just a lot, you know. So then Brandon talked about when he makes a business decision, he has to have that trust to go into business with somebody. Same with a marriage. He said you have to know that person will stick with you when things get rough. And he said you can't do business with someone who, if they don't know their way around an obstacle, they just leave. And he said with the TV show, they didn't know what to do with the character. They knew he just had a baby and they just decided to write him off. So he said a lot of things would have to line up in order for him to say yes to coming back. And if you're wondering how Stefan is going to leave, well, it already began on the Friday, October 25th episode. A masked man put him into a chokehold at the mansion until he passed out after he decided not to sign the divorce papers to make his split official from Gabby. And on Monday, which should be his last day, Stefan's awful mom, Vivian Alamain, is there, and she stops Gabby from seeing Stefan. So probably that was Vivian's henchman that knocked out Stefan. I'm actually in the middle of watching the episode, but I wanted to get this video out. So Stefan is not dead. Brandon Barash confirmed the character isn't dying, so probably Vivian stashes him somewhere for a timeout, which means the character could come back at any time. Now, whether they can get Brandon Barash to come back, that's a whole nother thing. He's a great actor. Loved him on General Hospital. He was Johnny Zakara over there. I watched him over there. Loved him. And he was the perfect recast Stefan after Days had to release Tyler Christopher, as many of you know, because of his addiction issues. And I love Tyler Christopher. He was also really good on GH. I hate that we lost Tyler, and, you know, may he rest in peace. And Brandon was great on both the soaps. And of course, you know, now they've just fired him because they couldn't figure out how to write for Stefan, which is a real shame because they can obviously keep writing this abysmal body and soul stuff. Make it make sense to me, please.
Thank you for being a loyal listener. Follow us wherever you get your podcast because you don't want to miss the next episode. Soap Dirt is on all the major podcast platforms, including Apple Podcast, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and more.